Hi, good morning. Look at that blue in the sky. 6:30. Walking to work, and guess what? The blue in the sky means we're getting closer to summer. Of course, there's snow everywhere. It's definitely winter, but it's normally pitch black. It's been pitch black all winter. It's making my eyes water. The cold makes my eyes water. So I've mentioned that a new hero of mine is Annie Besant. Annie Besant is, she's was alive in the 1800s. She died in the early 1900s, but it's a story of a woman in the 1800s, so a long time ago. She was way ahead of her time. She just does. I just love her so much. She's so cool and everything. She's a book, besides just her autobiography, the best book is her book, My Path to Atheism. But that's not the only one. They're all really good. So one of the things I'm trying to teach anyone that might be listening to me is just that, it's not always about, to learn from someone, you don't need to agree with everything that they say, I think that that's just an old idea that we need to give up, it comes from the idea, I think, of religion, that you believe things as a group, and then you believe that your group believes the only thing that's true and everyone else is wrong, and then you need to convert them to save them. That whole behavior makes people think that when you like someone, like how I like Annie Besant, that you need to agree with everything. But I'm constantly trying to that's hopefully one of my main messages. Like Herbert Armstrong, I think the world of Herbert Armstrong. He teaches me so much. I love him so much, but I disagree with a ton of things that he says. Annie Besant, so far, I've agreed with everything till this morning, listening to her audiobook, Ancient Ideals in Modern Life. And she's way, this is the 1800s. She's way ahead of her time. But the thing is humans before World War II, it's pretty hard to find a human before World War II that isn't kind of racist, honestly. Those of us that's old enough to remember the 70s, as far as racism, things didn't start getting better until the 80s and 90s. The 60s and 70s was still pretty bad. I remember the 70s, there was still a bunch of really ridiculous things believed by just common people, and believed, they believed it. So in this book, she goes over the caste system. So after listening to her book on atheism, she makes some of the most incredible points of of atheism, her reasons for not believing in the European God Yahweh, who's called God, atheism, not that theology is what she would mean by the word atheism. But then when you get to know her better, she's very she spent a lot of her life in India. She's very pro-Hinduism. And her translation of the Bhagavad Gita is incredible. And it's so cool. I love Hinduism too. I think Hinduism is super cool. And I think Buddhism is super cool. All religions are really cool in their own way, really. I think that our modern society is narcissistic. Narcissism always needs everything to be a competition, You don't need to agree with everything your hero says, but heroes are good. It's good to have, to learn from other people and to really look up to some people. But just because someone's your hero and you look up to them doesn't mean that you need to agree with everything they say, or else it means you're ingenuine or something like that. It's okay to disagree. And in the modern world, there's a lot of differences. Like the biggest one really is just the information can flow. So anyway, she lives in India, and she's big into Hinduism, and she goes over the caste system. So in India, they don't use the word race, like the black race, the white race. Of course, it's racist to believe there even are such a thing as race, but in India they call it the caste, a caste, this caste, that caste, the caste system. So she goes over her opinions on caste, and her point is that that the new ideas of complicating it and making like more castes is a bad, and that they should go back to the idea of there just being 4 different castes, just to go to the root things that in the Bhagavad Gita that Hare Krishna has said or has condoned, as part of something divine. So I think that the caste system, India is a very ancient place. So things they believe are connected deeply in an ancient kind of a way. So it's complicated, and I'm certainly no expert. Genetically, my family lived 300 years in India, so I'm genetically part from India, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't know what caste. I think it was a higher caste because it was a princess that came in my family that came to America. But I don't think that matters, because I just don't believe in racism, So in my experience, that's just another reason why I'm so into Haile Selassie, because Haile Selassie is he was born in the late 1892 to 1975, 1974. Haile Selassie was way before his time. Honestly, I'm sure there were other people, but Haile Selassie is the only person from back that far that isn't racist. Like you'll look up to the people, and so that's why I believe it's not you shouldn't always judge these people, because that generation just is like that, So, but then on the next chapter, she goes over gender and says that the holiness of the man and the woman, that there's only 2 genders, and that there should be no effort to make a man a woman or a woman a man. And okay, I can go. This is the main road. I'm going to push pause for a second. Okay, so I'm on the other side of the road now. I didn't want to walk through a main intersection talking to myself on the phone. Okay, so there, my gloves are back on. Oh, it's cold. So gender. So one thing that you see with looking back in time with Moses, 3,000 years ago, and all these, is that they teach that there's just 2 genders, and that it's bad for a man to try to change to be a woman, and a woman to try to change to be a man. But in a way, that's evidence just right there of how old that desire is. Because if they're teaching that it's bad to do, that's a pretty strong evidence that there were people trying to do it. So I think with the whole science teaching gender as a spectrum, I think that the only thing that proves is that it's inside the animal kingdom and it's inside nature for people to want to do that, but it doesn't really answer any questions. What does that mean, and what should be done about it? And then saying that there's always been transgender people in history, it's possible to create a perspective where you can show that there's always been transgender people, but all that does is that just shows that this natural tendency that we see with gender being a spectrum, which is really just desires of different gender expressions, that there's always been people doing something about it, and being stopped and killed, and that it's been, taboo. I think the root of the taboo-ness of it is that we have to realize how overpopulated the world is now. There used to not be so many people, and so when you convert people to your philosophy, you want them to make babies, because then those babies will be born into that same religion and that same philosophy and that same community. So any of the LGBT ideas in the past were demonized because it was like a loss of money. It was like, because babies were money. It was more hands to work in the field, and more people that believe the same thing that are already converted to that thinking, and blah blah blah. So I think that's really what was at the root of all that. But then there's a lot of things that you can learn. So one thing is, like, people talk about hidden agenda. So like, what are people's hidden agenda that's working against someone like me for being transgender, And if you're a free thinker, wouldn't you want to hear what I think? And I'm telling you, I promise you, being a transgender person and living life and experiencing the difficulties and things like that, it does I do have something to say. It does teach us some pretty profound things that other people are missing. I think it would be a really smart idea for me to be listened to, honestly, because I'm so old and I've studied spirituality, and I know how to transcend ego, and because of my spiritual maturity, and just that I'm coming from a perspective of experience, just all my vast experience in the subject and everything. It's not that hard to figure out that maybe you should listen to me, So the big point is that the people that work against it, they say there's only two genders, that they make it a rule, or else we'll kill you. There's only two genders, and then after they've created that, then they always look at everything they say after that is from that perspective. All truth is a controlled illusion. Everything's a perspective. By force, like in a fascist way, they force everybody to look at it from their perspective. They beat it into you so that you're looking at it from that perspective. There's only two genders. And then, if you look at it from that perspective, I am hideous and detestable and all the things they say. That's true. But if you look at it from the perspective of that there's more than one gender, so that's kind of what I'm saying here. In a modern world, so like Annie Besant, back in her day, there wasn't the internet and stuff like that, and people couldn't travel around so freely, So, you'll notice that, like in a fascist way, the two gender thinking, it tries to hold you in that country. You're not allowed to leave. You're not, it controls that. It makes that controlled environment, and then it doesn't let you expand out. But with the internet and information and all these things, everybody, that's not going to work. You don't even have to travel. You can just online. You can travel to other places in your mind and learn of different perspectives and things like that. So that's just a ridiculous idea to control that. I'm in an intersection again. Everybody's looking at me. So in a modern world where people are free to learn from each other, it's just there's going to have to be four genders, trans woman, trans man, cis woman, cis man. And we need to use those vocabulary words. We need to legally have those four different genders, because what I'm trying to say from my point of experience is that I don't believe that a trans woman is the same thing as a cis woman. And when you talk about the sacredness of the cis woman and everything, she has she's gonna have a baby and a family. Like, what would that? So like when when a woman's like in her place and she has a baby and a husband and a family and all that, everybody's looking at her, she's looking at herself, and it's this sacred place and all that stuff, you know. But what would her feelings and thoughts and her mechanisms be like if she didn't have that husband and that child and in that family? How different, you know, what would her feelings and drives, and how different would that be, you know? A lot of it is the situation that you're in, you know, and it creates that. And when you know, a transgender person takes hormones, and like I have female hormones and a female sex drive and all the drives, and you know, and I live the life of a female. So a lot of those things are true for me, but then again, a lot of those things aren't. There really is a difference between a trans woman and a cis woman. You know, they're more beautiful. They get to go through life, and everybody pats them on the back and says, "You're such a princess and so beautiful," and they're just completely, their position is sacred to everybody. But when you're a trans woman, you're detestable and you're a sin, and nobody understands you, and everybody thinks that you're mentally ill, and you know, you don't get to have that pat on the back, you know, and you're not seen as a beautiful thing. And everything, but it's because you're expected to be the same thing. But if there was 4 genders, if you were considered a different gender, then everybody's differences could be appreciated for what they are. And in a modern world, like an efficient modern world wouldn't stop people from forcing me to live life as a man and doing surgeries so that I no longer look like a woman, and taking and give me back a male. So you know, just all those things. Like why? How? Then you make in your make-believe little world, you think that I would be happier and that I'd be in a better place after that. Like that's not fair. It's too stupid. You know, forcing stupidity like that is absolutely cruel. I gotta run across this road. That would be so cruel. All the progress I've made, all the lessons I've learned, all the spiritual growth and everything, and you'd want to take that away. And like, people, if you would spend time looking at it from that perspective, I'm sure that you could figure out, like, I would stand zero chance. My mental health, I mean, it's already going to be hard, you know, to live my life as it is, you know. It's not like, should I isolate myself or should I not isolate myself, you know? Is it worth it to hang out with people that don't really respect me the right way? Or is it better just to live in my own little world and isolate myself? You know, that becomes the question in that. But if I was appreciated for my differences, instead of everybody needing there to be 2 genders, and so that I'm constantly being compared to cis women, that's not fair, you know. They're always gonna win, you know. Like imagine me in a romantic relationship with a woman, you know. Oh, like that would be, who would have that much charity, you know? Oh, let's celebrate how you're more beautiful than me, and then you know, let's look at your beautiful vagina and my hideous penis, and you know, like it would be, you know, why should I be that charitable that I would want to be in an intimate relationship with someone that's always so much better than me at everything all the time, you know? You see what I mean? That's so like force and just basically fascism's a stupid idea. Fascism is the religion of narcissism. It's the politics of narcissism, you know? It's the mark on the hand, you know? And the mark on the forehead is narcissism, you know? So that it doesn't work. So that's why.